team. Cowboys. And who I'm rolling with, huh?
Welcome to another episode of Classic Dallas Cowboys Talk. I am Sean Farrell. God is great all the time. All the time. God is great. Jesus Christ died and he rose again. Just going to get into it. Okay. So, there was a moment during the 1989 season where the Arizona Cardinals, or the Dallas Cowboys, were on their way to their second win of the season. Troy Aikman had just thrown a touchdown pass to James Hickson, okay? But the defense gave up 2 touchdowns in the final minutes of the game. And one of the guys who got beat for one of the touchdowns was Everson Walls, okay? He was covering Ernie Jones of the Cardinals at the time, who, ironically enough, Ernie Jones beat Everson Walls to score the game-winning touchdown, okay? So the game is over. Cardinals win 24-20. And Jimmy Johnson sees Everson Walls joking around with Ernie Jones, the man who just beat him for a touchdown. And Jimmy just got so irate and so pissed. He was like, "Everson, what are you doing? Get your ass in the locker room." Everson's like, "Coach, come on, man. We've lost so many of these things before. It's not a big deal." Jimmy Johnson wrote in his book that he was so mad at Everson that he just said no. He just said absolutely nothing to Everson Walls, okay? Which reminds me of what Michael Irvin said when Jimmy Johnson took over. Michael Irvin said, Michael Irvin said, "Jimmy Johnson called me and said he was coming over to take over the Cowboys." And then Michael Irvin was like, "I pulled out that list of everybody who said don't worry about it so long as you pick up your check." I said, "Jimmy, he has to go. He has to go. He's not here to win. He's not here to win." So I don't know if Everson Walls was on Michael Irvin's list of said, Michael Irvin's list who said he has to go. He has to go. He's not here to win. He's not here to win. Okay. I don't know if Everson Walls was on that list, but it made me think of that. That was the culture around Dallas in 1989. It was a losing culture, so Jimmy Johnson had to rid the players of who reflected that losing culture. And ironically enough, Everson Walls gets released in the offseason. He ends up going to the New York Giants, our division rival, and ends up winning a Super Bowl. Okay? So, I guess you could say Everson Walls was the early winner, and that had divorce from the Cowboys. But we went what, 3 Super Bowls in 4 years? So yeah. So I think everybody, Everson Walls, Jimmy Johnson, everybody came out of that situation pretty good. But yeah, that was the mentality around Dallas in 1989. Speaking of 1989, Jimmy Johnson's parents used to come to the home games, okay, to watch his son coach. But Dallas was just losing so much that Jimmy Johnson, at one point later in the season, he asked his mom and dad to stop coming to the games until Jimmy Johnson could get this thing turned around, which I completely understand, because the crowd was booing Jimmy Johnson. The team wasn't doing well. They were losing a lot. And so Jimmy Johnson thought it would be better for him to go through this alone. Okay, just go through the harshness of the 1-15 season. Okay, Um, and so in 1989, with the Dallas Cowboys, everything was tryout camp. Okay, every week was tryout camp. In other words, Jimmy Johnson wrote in his book Swagger. Jimmy Johnson said the players that other teams would release. Okay, Jimmy Johnson would sign those released players from other teams onto the Cowboys. Okay, one example was Kevin Lilly. Okay, the Cowboys had a guy named Kevin Lilly. Okay, um, okay, so just to give you an example of what Jimmy Johnson was talking about in his book that he wrote in 1993 called when he said every week was tryout camp. Okay, Jimmy Johnson wrote this in 1993. Okay, they had a guy named Kevin Lilly. Okay, um, okay, so Kevin Lilly was signed after a Monday workout. Okay, posed in the team picture Saturday, played Sunday, and then was cut Monday. Okay. Yeah, so every week was tryout camp. Players were coming and going. I remember the Cowboys had a guy, one of Jimmy Johnson's former players. His name was Willie Broughton. Okay, Willie Broughton, the offensive end. Another guy, his name was Derek Shepard. Okay, and his son, Erling Shepard, played in the NFL with the New York Giants. Okay, Eric Shepard played wide receiver for the Cowboys for 2 years. Okay, and his son Erling played wide receiver with the New York Giants and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Okay, Eric Shepard actually stuck around for a few years. Okay. But yeah, every week was tryout camp. Okay, as Mike Saxon said, he saw different players at practice every single week of the year. Okay, and I think this is a fitting end to the 1989 season. Okay, the Cowboys played the Packers in Texas Stadium, last game of the '89 season. They lost 20-10. Okay, and Jimmy Johnson, after the season was over, Jimmy Johnson was just spent, tired, exhausted from the losing, the hard work that he and his staff put in. Jimmy Johnson was just spent. He and the staff were just spent. Okay. And so the game's over. Jimmy Johnson completes all his. Jimmy Johnson speaks to his team. He speaks to the media. And Jimmy Johnson was just so spent and so tired. He just wanted to get out of there with his then girlfriend, Rhonda. But there was a reporter who came up to him, and she said, "Hey, Coach, I know you're tired, but let's just do this one interview. Let's just do this one last interview, and everything will be done." And Jimmy Johnson was like, "Can't do it. Can't do it. Get one of the assistant coaches to do it." Jimmy Johnson. That's how miserable he was. That's how miserable a season of it was. It was for the Dallas Cowboys in 1989, okay? And Jimmy Johnson, before you knew it, was on a plane to somewhere here warm with his girlfriend, okay? So, a fitting end to the 1989 season, I just mentioned how we lost to Green Bay 20-10, the last game of the year. And it was so cold. And it was so cold in Dallas that the Texas Stadium toilets had frozen, right? The Texas Stadium toilets had frozen, okay? And so, well, I guess it wasn't in Dallas technically. It was in Irving, Texas, okay? But, yeah, it was so cold that game, the last game of the year, that the Texas Stadium toilets had frozen, okay? And I believe there was only like one operating toilet that was good in the entire stadium. Okay, yeah, and so I think that kind of goes with being one in 15, right? I think that kind of goes with being 1 in 15, right? The last game of the year is so cold that the toilets in the stadium froze, except for one. Right? I think that kind of goes with being 1 in 15, okay? And so they also asked Tom Landry, who was at the New York Giants game, last game of the year. He was in Wellington Harris suite, okay? Tom Landry was a former player, former coach for the New York Giants, okay? And he was relaxing in Wellington Harris suite, okay? And they asked him about the '89 Cowboys. And Tom Landry said what you would expect. He said, I never would have traded Herschel, and I would not have started a rookie quarterback, okay? I think it's only fitting that the end of the 1989 season marked Tom Landry relaxing in Wellington Harris suite while the Texas Stadium toilets have frozen, okay? I know, right? It goes from being 1 in 15, right? Okay. So, okay, so, yeah, so, Issiac Holt, okay, defensive back for the Cowboys, lost his job to Kevin Smith late in the 1992 season because he was getting beat virtually every time he played. And so Kevin Smith took his job late in the year. And so they were playing the Philadelphia Eagles in the playoffs, okay? And there is a soundbite. Issiac Holt is standing on the sidelines, and Issiac Holt says this. Here it is.
The Cowboys beat up the Eagles physically, then outwitted them strategically by isolating their tall receivers on 5'7" Eagle cornerback Mark McMillan, number 29.
Yeah. I know y'all saw that in the title, Issiac Holt and the Lucky Charms box. Okay. He was talking about Mark McMillan, the Eagles cornerback. The Eagles cornerbacks were, I think, no taller than 5'8", 5'9", and Alvin Harper and Michael Irvin were like 6'3", 6'2". Okay, so that's why Issiac Holt was saying, somebody tell 29 to get back on their Lucky Charm box. Okay. Of course, the Cowboys won 34-10. Okay. All right. Okay, so no, that's it. All right, that's it, and that's all for Classic Cowboys Talk. I am out of here. May God bless you all. Peace out.
Who?
Cowboys.
What's my blue and gray team?
Cowboys.
And who I'm rolling with, huh?
My Cowboys.
Steelers better get it right. Giants better get it right. Who?
Cowboys.
What's my blue and gray team?
Cowboys.
And who I'm rolling with, huh?
My Cowboys.
Eagles better get it right. Skins better get it right.